So I like what Buttigieg had to say there because he's touching on something that is, in my opinion, a big problem with the GOP's messaging as it pertains to some of the culture war issues and the side that they like to take on those culture war issues. They like to simplify incredibly nuanced and complicated matters. So when JD Vance makes that statement about women who don't have children, he doesn't understand that he's actually insulting various groups of people. His assumption is that, oh, well, couples who don't have kids or women who don't have kids, they're childless by choice, right? They're selfish, they've decided against it, they're miserable.
Ana Kasparian and the Young Turks are losing their minds over this clip between Tucker Carlson and JD Vance that a lot of other people have also been losing their minds over, including people like Bill Maher and Whoopi Goldberg and The View and the usual suspects. They're losing their minds over this, and JD Vance obviously being the VP pick for Trump. It's no matter who they pick as the VP pick for Trump, they're going to lose their minds over that person. Let's get into this clip here of Tucker Carlson and JD Vance that you probably have already seen, and then get into the meltdown from Ana Kasparian and the Young Turks. Let's check this out.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
That Tucker Carlson interview with GOP vice presidential pick JD Vance dating back to 2021 has now come back to bite JD Vance right in the ass, because that kind of mess.
To be honest, I don't think it's biting him in the ass. I'm not a fan of JD Vance and that pick for VP, but I think this is a based clip. I think it's a good clip. I think it'll also play well to his supporters and Trump supporters. I think that he's right. Obviously, not everybody that has kids is going to care about the future of the country, and not everybody that doesn't have kids isn't going to care about the future of the country. But on average, it's a safer bet to bet on someone that has children that are going to live into the future. It's a better bet for them to care about the future of the country than it is a good bet for the people without children to care about the future of the country. That's just the fact of the matter. So what JD Vance is saying is that it's a safer bet for people to be running the country that have children, because they have an obvious stake in the future of the country, rather than not having children and just caring about the present and doing whatever they can to maintain power for their lifetime, because after they're gone, it doesn't really matter. But of course, Democrats, liberals, woke people, they're going to use this to their advantage to try and promote Kamala Harris, try to tear down Trump and his administration like they always do. Let's see what Ana Kasparian has to say about it.
Messaging doesn't really play so well when you're trying to attract independent voters at a time when not Joe Biden, but Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee to basically run against Donald Trump in the general election. Now, after that video resurfaced, and again, it dates back to July of 2021, a bunch of articles were written about it. Obviously, a lot of women were unhappy about him referring to childless women as, miserable cat ladies. Harris, by the way, became a stepmother to 2 teenagers when she married entertainment lawyer Douglas Emhoff in 2014. And the attacks against Pete Buttigieg, pretty gross as well. He announced that he and his husband adopted infant twins in September of 2021. So a few months after JD Vance made those statements. And by the way, Buttigieg weighed in on that interview just last night while speaking on CNN. So let's take a look at that.
The really sad thing is he said that after Chasten and I had been through a fairly heartbreaking setback in our adoption journey. He couldn't have known that, but maybe that's why you shouldn't be talking about other people's children. And it's not about his kids or my kids or the vice president's family. It's about your family, people's families whose well-being will depend on whether we go into a future led by somebody like Kamala Harris, or do you want your children to grow up in a country defined by a return to the chaos and recrimination and cruelty that was the hallmark of the Trump era?
So I like what Buttigieg had to say there because he's touching on something that is, in my opinion, a big problem with the GOP's messaging as it pertains to some of the culture war issues and the side that they like to take on those culture war issues. They like to simplify incredibly nuanced and complicated matters. So when JD Vance makes that statement about women who don't have children, he doesn't understand that he's actually insulting various groups of people. His assumption is that, oh, well, couples who don't have kids or women who don't have kids, they're childless by choice, right? They're selfish, they've decided against it, they're miserable.
No, I don't think that's what he's assuming at all. I don't think he's assuming that at all. I think he's just telling the truth. Although, yes, it is a harsh one. It definitely is a harsh one, and it's going to hurt a lot of feelings. I think he's telling the truth that, like I said, whether or not they choose to have children is kind of irrelevant. You know, if they choose to have children and they can't, or if they choose to not have children and they can, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is if you have children or not, it's a safer bet for someone to have children to actually care about the future of the country because they're going to be emotionally invested in it. You know, people who have children, I don't have any, but people who have children, they always say that it's, you know, it's an unexplainable feeling how much you have love for the child. So even if you originally didn't care about the future of the country, then you have children, you're then going to be more invested in the country going well in the future rather than selfish desires in the present. Doesn't matter. Like, he wasn't taking into account people's emotions and how they would feel. He just told the truth. That is 100% the truth of the matter. People that watch this video might get mad at me for saying that, but it is the truth. You know, he wasn't taking into account feelings. He wasn't taking into account, well, is the person watching this, are they able to have children? No, he doesn't care. Like, he's just telling the truth how it is.
Women, he's obviously tapping into a ridiculous stereotype, but you also have to consider the fact that there are plenty of women out there who want to have families. They haven't found the right partner for them yet. They want to ensure that they have a dependable partner to have children with. There are women who
and it doesn't matter if they want to have kids or not. They don't have them. So they're probably not a safe bet to care about the future of the country, was his point.
Desperately want to conceive, but cannot conceive for whatever reason. And by the way, you have Republicans now attacking in vitro fertilization to make it more likely for women who are having difficulty conceiving to be able to have children. There are also women out there who are step parents, right? And that kind of messaging doesn't really appeal to those women as well. And so it's interesting, Cenk, because Kamala Harris is a complicated candidate, okay? I don't know who she really is. She tends to kind of go with the flow and what's popular or trendy at any given moment. But what I will say about her is that she has been attempting to appeal to corporate America a lot more, and we're gonna talk about that later on in the show. I read about those things and it makes me dislike Kamala Harris as a candidate. And then that's immediately followed up by Republican attacks like this against women in general. And I'm like, I don't like that either. I don't like that at all, right?
Yeah. Well, look, the Republicans constantly disqualify themselves from huge sections of America. And remember, both the Republicans and the Democrats take corporate money. So that's kind of a tie. So then for the tiebreaker, you go to who can you stomach? And let alone the Supreme Court, let alone other things that we care about. But you know, when you have Republicans that purposely insult the great majority of the country, it's the worst electoral strategy. They just can't help themselves. So let me break it down a little further from based on what Anna was saying. First of all, Kamala Harris has two stepdaughters. That's from the second dude, Doug Emhoff's earlier marriage, right?
Gentleman.
Sorry, second gentleman. Okay, and so what he's saying and is in calling her a cat lady is kids don't count. Well, there goes millions of voters, right, who feel incredibly insulted by that. So then how about the women who can't have?
This was back in 2021. I'm not sure when Kamala Harris got married or whatever to the person that she has stepchildren with. I'm not sure. Maybe she didn't. That wasn't back in 2021. Maybe she didn't get married and have stepchildren with that person yet. But you know, I think the point still stands. And obviously, you know, Cenk and Ana Kasparian, they're going to be as anti-Trump as possible. Now they know that Kamala Harris is most likely going to be the candidate. They have to just lean into it and do their absolute best to make sure Trump doesn't win. You know, that's all that's happening here.
Have kids, and now you're useless cat ladies. oh my God, there goes millions of more votes, right? And then the women who chose not to have kids, either they didn't get married or they got married, but they didn't want kids, there goes millions of more votes. I mean, because these are so directly, personally insulting. You're insulting the identity of these people, you're making fun of them, you're making fun of the lifestyle choices that they made. And so that's where we get into both polling and the instincts of Republicans.
Yeah, I have to add one more thing to that, Cenk, because it's not just that he stereotypes, women who don't have children. He goes even further than that because he claims that those who don't have kids have no stake in America. That is so outrageous. Okay, yeah. By the way, as a woman who doesn't have children, of course I have a stake in America. I love this country. I want to protect this country. I want wonderful things for people who live in this country. And the idea that I have no stake in the country is one of the most insulting things to hear from a politician.
Yeah, it's super dumb in every conceivable way, factually wrong, politically, strategically wrong. So, and one other absurd thing that he said within that quick 30-second bite there was he talked about how these childless cat ladies were running politics and the corporate oligarchy.
What?
Are there a lot of motherless women who are CEOs and executives of the giant corporations? I never heard that. What a crazy out of left field attack. And by the way, this guy, he's always talking about, oh, I'm against the corporate oligarchy because he knows that polls well, and hence he's a fake populist. But at the same time, he's like, now remember, if we get into office, more tax cuts for corporations and more deregulation so corporations can hurt you, can hurt the community, as long as they make infinite money. But I'm against the corporate oligarchy. Okay, now back to the women issue. The polling indicates that single women are much, much more likely to vote for Democrats. Women with no kids are more likely to vote for Democrats. But there's no causality there. I mean, there could be because of the policies of Democrats and Republicans, but you're not going to fix that by just taking those women and forcing them into marriage and forcing them to have kids. But these knuckleheads don't understand science at all.
Yeah, actually, Cenk, it's
probably, from my experience, that liberal women, Democrats, are really hard to deal with. They're really difficult to reason with and have conversations with. I'm not someone who can just shut my mouth and let somebody say stupid things around me. Whenever somebody says something stupid, I don't care how attractive the girl is, I have to say, hey, that's really stupid that you just said that, And a lot of people, a lot of men are the same way, where it's like, if they're hardcore feminists or left-wingers, woke people, they're just difficult to deal with. So that's probably why they're single. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought about this Young Turks clip here of Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur losing their minds over that Tucker Carlson and JD Vance clip that a lot of people have been losing their minds over. The usual suspects, like I said, Ana Kasparian, Cenk Uygur, Whoopi Goldberg, The View, Bill Maher, the rest of them. They're all losing their minds over that. I think it's just a tactic to try and tear down Trump's future administration. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole Ana Kasparian versus JD Vance and Tucker Carlson situation.